Hello, everyone, and welcome to Volume 5 of Nucleus Shortcuts. Hard to believe it's already been 5 episodes. If you missed earlier episodes, don't worry because you can find them on our blog at nucleussec.com and also on our YouTube channel, which is actually fairly new. So if you search Nucleus Security, you should be able to find our YouTube channel fairly easily. Check it out. Make sure to subscribe so you get notifications when we do new videos. So I'm your host, Adam Dudley, and our topic today is editing vulnerability information in Nucleus. So the other day, I showed our solutions architect here, Dave, and he's also one of our expert writers for the blog. I showed him some materials I was working on to illustrate Nucleus's capabilities for analyzing, tracking, and searching all vulnerability information from all tools, pen tests, audits, from a single console. That's a big part of our value proposition. So he said we could probably do a whole episode just on editing vuln information once it's in Nucleus. So I said, hey, if it can help our audience, let's do it. So Dave, just in case the folks at home haven't seen an episode with the two of us, would you just introduce yourself briefly?
Yeah, thanks, Adam. My name is Dave Farquhar. I'm a VM professional, and I'm a former system administrator who specialized in patching. And during my decade pushing patches for a living, I fixed more than 800,000 vulnerabilities. And the feature that we're going to talk about today would have made that job a whole lot easier. So I'm really excited about it.
Great. And Dave, I feel compelled. I really want to get you a t-shirt that says, I fixed 800,000 vulnerabilities. So awesome.
And I want you to fix 1 million.
Awesome.
Well,
Thanks,
not you,
Dave.
our audience.
Okay. Yeah, audience. I think amongst our customers, they've definitely fixed over 1 million, if not more.
Oh, easy.
We'll get those numbers for you one day for the folks watching at home. So for everyone, Dave, would you mind giving a brief overview of why this use case of Nucleus is important to the work of managing vulnerabilities, and more specifically, why they should care about it?
Yeah. So I'm going to be talking about meteorology an awful lot.
Okay.
So the term weather liars, we've probably all heard people say it because it seems like the weather forecast is always wrong. But when you go and you tally it up, it's actually right most of the time, but we remember the times when it was wrong and it affected us.
That's right.
And that's a big problem in vulnerability management. And we run into this with our vulnerability scanners. When your scanner finds a vulnerability, it usually gives you some information on how to fix it. And the quality of that information can vary quite a bit. And that's true of all of the scanners. And this isn't a problem that you can solve by just buying a different scanner. And most of the time, it's not a problem. You don't need any specific advice. You just blast out the latest updates and see what sticks. But there's that minority of the time when the fix isn't straightforward, and those are the times that we remember. So in our minds, patching is hard 90% of the time, even though it's really hard more like 10% of the time, but we project that 10% of the time that it's hard on the 90. Now, the solution is to deal with that 10%. And sometimes the canned advice that's in the scanner is perfect. And sometimes it just doesn't cut it. And so I'll give you a couple of examples of times when that canned advice doesn't cut it. Let's say you've got a piece of software that's on extended support, end of life, but you can pay for extended support and get the updates for it. So you're paying for and you're receiving Java updates or Microsoft updates that aren't publicly available. Is there anything special that you have to do to get those updates so that you can deploy them? There probably is. And if there is, edit the solution field so that the people doing the remediation can find that information right there where they need it. And this is also how you deal with the vulnerabilities that we like to call ankle biters. These are vulnerabilities that are on systems by default because of a decision that the vendor made. There's no patch for them. There's no CVE associated with them, but it is a legitimate vulnerability. And the solution for those involves editing a registry key or doing some other weird incantation. And you find the solution on some random IT professional's blog, like maybe mine, or some discussion forum, and the fix works. But then 6 months later, you find that vulnerability on some new system and you can't find the fix because you can't remember what you searched for, or even more likely, the blog or the forum where you found the answer is offline now. So when you find that fix, edit the solution in Nucleus. That way it's there when you need it and where you need it. Or if someone else is working on it next time, they've got the solution. They don't have to go and find it and reinvent the wheel. So finding the remediations that you need can take a lot of research, but this allows you to only have to do that research once.
Nice, nice. So thanks for that summary, Dave. So what I heard is that, the quality of solutions coming out of the scanning tools can vary in quality. And often you find yourself searching and going down a lot of rabbit holes to find a solution that works. So you want to capture that solution somewhere when you find it. So you or someone else on the team, they can go back and reference it, use it again down the road when the vuln pops up on a new system. And the editable solutions field in the vuln details view in Nucleus is a great place to do that. Is that a good summation?
You got it.
Nice, nice. So, Dave, from your very lengthy experience in this world, can you give us a real world example of the values customers get with the ability to edit vuln information once it's in Nucleus? Maybe something from your own experience.
Here's an example you could probably put to use today. So websites protect private information using a technology called TLS. And you see TLS in action in that lock that's in the URL in your web browser. Now, when you scan anything that is running a web server or anything that borrows that same technology, like Microsoft Remote Desktop, you're likely to have findings that are related to TLS or its predecessor, SSL. And in my experience, most organizations have quite a few of these. And it's always an ordeal to fix them, especially when that web server is running Windows. But this is one of those things, if you want to be able to process credit cards, you'd better figure it out. So some scanners will point you to a Microsoft knowledge base article that describes a solution. And let's just say that I've never gotten a good reaction to that specific knowledge base article. If Microsoft tries to be simpler than Unix, but this is one of those cases where they make Unix look simple. So now, ripping and replacing all your Microsoft web servers with Unix servers because it's easier, that's not going to go anywhere. So there's an easier way. What I like to do is run a tool called IIS Crypto. So IIS Crypto, just Google that, you'll find it. And if there's only one thing you take away from this episode, that's the thing. Write down IIS Crypto. It has a very nice, straightforward user interface that generates me a registry file that will fix the TLS solutions based on criteria that I give. And one of the criteria is recommended solutions or PCI compliance. And there are several canned instances.
Sure.
It goes and generates a registry file. It'll make the change if you want, but a lot of people are nervous about running that on any server. So just create the registry file, save the file somewhere on your network, then edit the solutions field in Nucleus to say where that file with the recommended settings is. Now the solution is go and import that registry file, and now you've fixed a pile of TLS errors on each server that you do that on. So it's an easy button. And the solution field in Nucleus is the perfect place to store that kind of information.
Fantastic. So what I'm hearing in all that, Dave, just to translate it down to more layman's terms, Nucleus can really become a central repository for custom solution information and collective knowledge about solutions to the benefit of a whole team. And it makes it unnecessary to have to look up these solutions on the web over and over again. It's like, say on our development team here at Nucleus, the business of software engineering is a lot of Googling, a lot of Stack Overflow. So, when the engineers find solutions that are unique and that maybe help some of the other developers down the road, they'll say, they'll share that out. They'll put it in our wiki for the other engineers to benefit from later. So you're not having to repeat that, arduous process of going down rabbit holes over and over again to find solutions.
Exactly. And that's one on the AppSec side. That's a trick that's well documented.
Mm-hmm.
On the networking side, not quite so much. They don't have the networking team doesn't necessarily have a good place to store that information, and Nucleus can be that place.
Sure. And as the folks at home might know, Nucleus handles vulnerabilities coming from application security scanners as well. So we do have application security engineers, developers, DevSecOps folks in Nucleus using it every day. And so, now maybe if they were now Nucleus can be a specialized repository just for solution information for security bugs rather than putting it in the general dev wiki or whatever where they put this stuff. So that sounds like another advantage as well. So Dave, why don't we jump into a quick demo and just show people how this works in Nucleus so they can get a sense of it.
Sure thing. So let me share my screen here.
Great.
So hopefully you see Nucleus here.
I do.
So what we're going to do is I've gone ahead and I've gone to my vulnerabilities and I did a search on TLS. And so I found this is your demo environment, but this is not at all unlike what I see in the real world.
Okay.
And so we're going to pull up, let's pick on Triple Des. But really, it will be the same solution for any of these TLS SSL errors that we're seeing here. So we'll pick on Triple Des. Now, here's that solution, which is not very helpful.
Okay.
Like we discussed.
I'll take your word for it, Dave, as the non-VM expert.
What we can do, we delete the non-helpful, overly technical response that only a CISSP can love. And we paste in this. Run the tool IIS Crypto from Nartec Software and choose recommended settings or load the file stored at. And I posted a fake link here. Edit that link to the actual link on your internal file server where you store that file. Import the current approved settings. And save it.
Nice.
And simple.
That's awesome. That's all it takes, huh?
And that is all it takes. Now, what we can do too, since these have a tendency to have the same solution, go to the next one. RC4, same family of vulnerabilities, same solution.
Okay.
Edit that one. Now we can move on to the next one. It's this one, SHA-1 and TL. Yep. So same thing. So you can just go through and fix a whole bunch of these. You apply that fix, it's going to fix probably 10 or 15. So you can close a lot of vulnerabilities in a hurry with just one simple fix.
That's great. Thanks for that demo, Dave.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Very welcome.
So based on all this, what we talked about to this point, what is a big win for the folks at home with being able to edit, this solution info on an instance of a vuln, or actually the whole finding itself versus the alternatives?
So the other approach that I've seen to this is to compile and provide a remediation database.
Okay.
And when I was working at an MSSP, there was a fair bit of pressure on my team to take a look at a product that takes that approach. Because it sounds amazing and it demos extremely well in sales presentations. And that's why they wanted to support it, because it was an easy sell.
Yep.
Now, I didn't care about the sale because I was the person who had to get the customer results after the sale so that they would renew. And when I looked at the vulnerabilities that I've found over the years that give large organizations trouble, well, they didn't have anything for that. And it was back to that meteorology problem. If I don't have the solution to the problem that you're having, then, and my solution is difficult, then it doesn't matter when, the quality of the solutions that I do have.
Sure.
So in the end, the problem with these canned solutions is not so, well, besides them not being intuitive sometimes, is that they don't consider your workflow at all. Frequently, it's easier if you store the solution on a file share and just point the person doing the remediation at the file that they need to import or run, like we just did in that demo.
Okay.
That's the easy button.
Got it.
And you're going to need to do this about 20% of the time. But the problem is, I don't know which 20%.
Right.
So that old proverb about giving someone a fish versus teaching them to fish comes to mind. The solutions database is your tackle box.
Okay.
Now, do you want a tackle box that's full of lures for fish that don't live in the area you do? Or do you want to fill that tackle box with things that are going to be effective?
Yeah, love that comparison. That's great, Dave. So before we wrap up, in your view, what's the most important thing for folks to take away from what we've talked about today? Say there's an analyst or an engineer out there starting to come around to the idea of enhancing their program with Nucleus. What would you say to them with regards to the benefits of implementing Nucleus for their program and being able to customize the solution information on a vulnerability once their vulnerability data is synced, from all their various scanners?
One of the most common objections to patching and remediation in general is the amount of time that it takes to research the solutions to astronomical numbers of vulnerabilities. And that statement is a huge roadblock for many organizations. So let's unpack that statement. We've talked about caveman patching before.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a theory. That's how I actually used to work. That works because 80 or 90% of the time you just run an update and it works.
Mm-hmm.
But we remember the exceptions. The same reason we think that weather forecasts are always wrong. They aren't always wrong. We just remember when they were wrong.
That's right.
Those are the times that we remember. And this functionality helps you to deal with those exceptions. I'm not asking you to research and fix all of them. Before you research it, caveman it. The only vulnerabilities that deserve the research are the ones that the caveman patching doesn't fix. So now we've reduced the number that need research to a manageable number. So now you prioritize. Start with the criticals. If the canned solution doesn't work, research. Edit the solution field so you have the problem next time. There will be a next time. But then you at least only have to do the research once. And then when you're dealing with backlogs, fixing one issue often fixes the others as well, or some others as well. So your total starts to drop. So you don't have as many highs to research. You don't have as many mediums to research. So you kind of build a snowball effect.
Okay.
Now, you can do that caveman part without Nucleus. Nucleus helps you to measure the results, but you can caveman without any tools at all. But the second part really requires Nucleus. And this feature is one of those little details that Nucleus got right that no other solution that I've worked with really seems to have even thought about.
Nice. Thanks for that, Dave. And I think people can find your article on patching caveman style on our blog as well at nucleussec.com. So be sure to check that out. That's a wrap for this episode. And Dave, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll share relevant links in the show notes, including how you can get a free trial or take a demo of Nucleus. And we'll see you soon in the next Nucleus Shortcuts. Thanks for watching.